Have you ever thought about making your own podcast? Okay, so you have your script. You ready to record? So now what? Anchor, a podcasting platform, can come to your rescue. I use it for my podcasts because of the ease of having Anchor distribute my episodes on other podcasting platforms, such as Spotify and Apple Podcast. It's a free platform with its own creation tools that make it easy for you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And the best part? You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Now that's a good deal. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Anchor.fm is everything you need to make a podcast, all in one place. And now, on with the show. The art of losing isn't hard to master. So many things seem filled with the intent to be lost, that their loss is no disaster. Like a daydream, memories could perhaps filter in and out of our consciousness, this wanting of remembering but finding the fog too thick to remember it all. What would you do if you knew it would get worse? It's a scary thing to realise your own demise, and that's why it's so important to find things and people that make that short time worth the effort. Knowing your diagnosis, understanding the decline, is evident. But not realising how fast it can take hold is a terrifying thing. The loss of oneself, the moment stood in isolation of trying different coping mechanisms. They work for a while, but what happens when they fail? This is a new chapter of one's life, of the decline of one's identity, and nothing can stop it. We are two takes, and this is one shot, an analysis of the film Still Alice. Alice Howard, a linguistics professor in Cambridge University, is celebrating her 50th birthday with her husband and 3 grown children. Various situations, such as forgetting a word in a lecture and becoming lost while she jogs around campus, has Alice seeing a doctor that, after a couple of verbal and memory tests, an MRI and PET scan, diagnoses Alice with early onset familial Alzheimer's disease. For a moment, let's look at what the disease is. It is a hereditary disease that appears at an unusually early age, 30s, 40s and 50s. If diagnosed, one of the parents would have also had it, giving your siblings and children a 50-50 chance of being diagnosed with it. Within the film, in a few short sentences, Alex explains her father was a raging alcoholic and her mother and sister died in a car accident when she was young. So the news of this diagnosis is new and hard to swallow. The chance of Alice's children getting the disease is placed in clear sight, where the choice of knowing is up to them. Anna, the oldest, is positive, Tom is negative, and Lydia, the youngest, does not want to know. And thus, having 3 children, it is given all 3 situations and the choice of knowing. Going back to the disease itself, it is a genetic disorder, the consequence of the malfunctioning of mutated genes. This disease is incurable, and the sequence in which the signs appear differ from person to person. Typical signs can include personality changes such as brusqueness, insensitivity, mood swings, paranoia and fearfulness, frequent lapses of memory, especially of recent memories, whilst also forgetting appointments or names of people, being unable to find the way home, as well as unsettling moments of disorientation in familiar places, the struggle to learn new things and to adapt to changes at home or work, with the potential to lead to a lack of interest in activities that were once enjoyed, social exclusion and depression, the difficulty in finding words, the eventual difficulty in involuntary movements and physical coordination. In some occasions, a person's symptoms can also include insomnia, verbal and physical outbursts, sexual disorders, gait disorders, and weight loss. We can see that many of these symptoms are presented in Alice's story. It is also often spouses, relatives, or colleagues at work who are the first to notice something is changing. In other cases, it is the person themselves who notice it first. In Alice's case, this might be both. What would you do with this information? From Alice's hope it being a tumour in her brain, she purposefully forgets to bring John, her husband, to the meetings with her doctor. From trying to continue her job, her life in the same way, outside influences such as the students and their bad reviews, to her boss asking her what is wrong, and for her children to give alarmed looks behind her back, Alice, reflecting upon her situation through her insomnia, gives in and tries to talk about this with John. This is when the terror of loss begins. It is understandable for others, outside of one's mind, to register this as ridiculous and normal. Who hasn't forgotten a word now and again? But it is a battle within Alice, and her panic, her breakdown, is what makes it serious. Why the want of a tumour? Why the use of a phone for reminders and questions? For a sense of control. With a tumour, many factors can control it. It can perhaps be defeated by chemo and extracted. With reminders and daily questions, Alice can determine and assess, without really realising it, how her deterioration is doing. She is trying to kid herself into believing she has some control, but even then, that is only a coping mechanism, and it can only last for so long. This is when she videos herself with explicit instructions. Another aspect of having some control over her future, she shows this will get worse, and so, after giving her later self enough time to lose enough, to not know the daily questions she has set herself, Alice tells herself to take enough pills to go to sleep. She speaks articulately, accurately, with no emotional input, perhaps not leaving room for whys and hows, and we, as the audience, can see that though thought out very precisely, this plan go wrong through forgetting. Alice finds the folder the clip is held in, accidentally on her computer, and understanding she is looking at herself, she eagerly opens it and listens to the instructions. Understanding it from the later Alice's point of view, some aspects of the message, such as the early Alice stating that you are only watching this because you cannot answer the questions anymore, might be seen as assuming the later Alice knows what she is talking about. This gives the impression that even the best laid plans can fall in on themselves. What was interesting was how the later Alice, trusting the vision of her early self, does this without questioning, like a child following an adult's instructions, willing, loving, trusting, and understanding where her deterioration is by the repetitive walking up and down the stairs trying to remember what her early self has said, shows that this is a worrying construct. Earlier on in the scene, it is obvious that Alice is never alone, and this moment is a rarity, and like a rarity, it is fleeting. And so, in a moment, the pills are dropped, and Alice forgets the whole plan. And this can be a scene that depicts how quickly the mind can have a thought, and how it can flicker out like an unsteady flame. For something that many experience, it can become complicated to try and explain it. Various artists, including the directors of Still Alice, Richard Glatzer and Wash Westmoreland, try to explore this. Another example is the band Radiohead and the song Daydreaming. After a discussion about the video of the song, the visuals of Tom York wandering from room to room, opening and shutting different doors in different settings, can be seen as another visual construct of Alzheimer's. Dreamers, they never learn. They never learn. Beyond the point of no return. And it's too late. The damage is done. The damage is done. This goes beyond me, beyond you. Some of the lyrics of Radiohead's song, Daydreaming, might be another description of what Alice is going through. Can daydreaming be like Alzheimer's? The increase of wandering thoughts going in and out of the mind like the flurry of traffic in high speed? Perhaps. We can only theorize this personal disease. The consistency of wandering, sometimes faster than others, is always there in the video, of not knowing where you are, and not completely panicking, much like Alice when it comes to forgetting people and others saying you should know who they are. It's the acceptance of what is around you at face value, because there is nothing else. The interactions between Alice and her family, primarily Lydia, show interesting concepts. John, her husband, firstly regarding what Alice is saying is ridiculous, is suddenly taking her seriously. He attempts to refrain from getting upset in front of her, however it can be seen as he is finding this all too overwhelming. The last scene of them together, John and Alice are in their favourite yogurt shop, eating. John suddenly asks, "Ali, do you still want to be here?" leading from prior conversations between them about his opportunity to work in another state. Alice reluctantly never really gives an answer, but presses for the want of John to have a sabbatical and for them to be all together before it's too late. John flicks it off and does not budge. Thus, his question of her wanting to be here. Alice takes it within the moment and answers that she's not done with her treat. And thus, her disease has taken control, landing her, within this conversation, only in the moment. And it is within this that John decides to leave her for the job, eventually showing that he cannot cope with the decay of his wife. And now, on to their children. Anna, the oldest, is attempting to try for a baby using IVF with her husband. It is at this point in the story that Anna is pregnant and that she is tested positive for Alzheimer's. The connection and misidentification of Anna with Anne, Alice's dead sister, comes up a couple of times at various points in the movie. This could be the simple mistake of writing Anne's name instead of Anna's because they are similar, or because, to Alice, Anna, her daughter, looks very much like her sister. And though this is shown not to be a problem now, it might be further along when the disease takes hold. Tom, the middle child, is negative for the disease, and his connection to his father, both being doctors, makes him more of a daddy's boy than anything else. We see him immediately discussing things with John, deep in conversation at Alice's birthday. His decisions regarding his mother's disease is mostly agreeing with the others. Lydia, on the other hand, the youngest sibling, is the one that is not afraid to ask the questions, and eventually takes up the responsibility of taking care of Alice. She is wanting to be an actress, and more than once, Lydia and Alice have the argument of her having a backup plan and to go to college, or at least a drama school. The first time they agree to disagree. The second time, when everyone is aware of Alice's disease, she uses it as a manipulation tool to get what she wants. Or attempts to. This could be regarded as Alice trying to find something good in this situation, by using her disease for something, making it another aspect of attempting control. It can be theorized that having 3 children within the story can help show different outcomes and emotions to the same thing. Anna, being the eldest, might feel some responsibility to try and overcome her emotions through realizing many things in a short space of time. Alice's disease, her pregnancy, and her test results. It can be overwhelming. Tom is perhaps thinking of this as an emotional obstacle that needs to be ignored. Like John, he decides to work. Lydia, seen as both emotional and steady, is the one that lets go of her dreams, or at least tries to control them on the side, whilst taking care of the one person who cares about her deeply. So from the emotional I don't know what to do, to the workaholic ignoring the situation, to the final understanding and realization that dreams can wait because the disease is important to witness and realize. It is an intense moment when someone forgets who you are, and let's make no mistake, it is with Lydia that Alice forgets who she is, and it's a painful scene to experience. Alice goes up to Lydia after her acting debut in a play and asks questions and behaves as though Lydia is a stranger. We've seen Alice's behaviour before, sweet, charming, polite, but Lydia takes it in her stride and continues, fully aware that this is disease, not her mother. Another scene, to which Lydia argues with her mother, is when certain bits of information from her journal are said in a conversation. Alice, reading Lydia's journal, recites the information and begs for forgiveness when she is not aware of what she was reading. Lydia storms off. The next day, it is Alice who brings up the fight, knowing through feeling that something is wrong rather than what she said. There was a theory here that suggests the disease does not affect the lasting effects of moments that contain emotion. To understand what Alice is going through, Lydia is the only one that asks her, to which Alice attempts to explain, thanking her for asking. In the last scene, featuring Lydia and Alice, Lydia is reading a section from the play Angels in America by Tony Kushner. She says, "But I saw something only I could see, because of my astonishing ability to see such things. Souls were rising from the earth below, souls of the dead, or people who's perished from famine, from war, from the plague. And they floated up, like skydivers in reverse, limbs all akimbo, wheeling, spinning. And the souls of these departed joined hands, clasping ankles, and formed a web, a great net of souls, and the souls were 3-atom oxygen molecules of the stuff of ozone, and the outer rim absorbed them and was repaired. Because nothing is lost forever. In this world, there was a kind of beautiful progress, a longing for what we left behind and dreaming ahead. At least, I think so. From this passage, we can determine the meaning to interlink with Alzheimer's, of the togetherness, of wanting to find a cure, or the care of each other, to the point of that love heals wounds. The nothing does not last forever, as the memories from others hold you dear, is a longing for something that is lost, sure, but also the excitement of each new moment. Alice's deterioration at the end is of her grunting and staring into space. However, a sudden flicker of recognition is what encouraged Lydia to carry on reading. At the end, she asks her mother what she thought it was about, and after a pause, Alice croaks out the word love. Lydia smiles, knowing her mother is still there. Though physical movements are limited, Alice is still Alice, known by her daughter for who she is, not what she should stand for. If you enjoyed what was said, please follow me on Anchor and Spotify. Be kept in the loop for new episodes by following my Instagram. And if you have any questions, email me at 2takespodcast1@gmail.com. And as always, thanks for listening.